Welcome to Tek Experts. I'm James Bedford, the Global Head of Communications, and with me today is Gary Bennett, Country Manager of the Tek Experts operation in Rwanda. Gary has over 17 years worth of experience of working in Africa, delivering successful support solutions, people and development leadership programs, as well as supporting the growth of the GBS and ITO industry. At Tek Experts, we're focused on delivering exceptional outcomes with purpose-built solutions. We're a leading global provider of technology, services, and support, and a trusted partner to some of the world's largest and most respected organizations. We employ more than 5,000 people across the globe in key locations including Africa, Bulgaria, China, Costa Rica, Vietnam, and the United States of America, with a mission to help enterprises transform their technical services and support into a strategic engine for growth. Turning experiences into positive outcomes, we create deeper customer connections that boost loyalty, renewals, and growth, all delivered at speed. Let's jump into today's session. We've structured this session as an interview with 5 key questions so that we could all learn from Gary in less than 20 minutes why Africa is the next global IT outsourcing hub. The main areas these questions will address are Africa's compelling rise as a dynamic outsourcing and offshoring location, Africa's tech capabilities in addressing the global tech shortage, and finally, an African success story, how Tek Experts is already effectively working with African talent. Okay, Gary, let's go. Here's the first question for you. Africa is a continent of 54 countries. It's vast. How does this support the needs of global tech companies as they search for skill and capacity?
Thank you, James. Really great to be here today, and welcome to our TSA World audience. So I'm looking forward to talking a bit about Africa and what Tek Experts are doing in Africa as well. I guess start point is by the numbers. So it is 54 countries. It's 1.4 billion people currently. And I think from the context of what we're talking about in terms of outsourcing and ITO outsourcing, there's a 28%, so roughly a third of the population would fall into the youth category, somewhere between 18 and 35. So you've got a youthful population there, and that youthful population is looking for opportunity. Sadly linked to a youthful population and some of the economics across Africa, we have unemployment rates anywhere between 17 and 35%. So we've got a group of people who are young, they're connected globally because the connectivity sits within Africa, and they're looking for opportunity. We've probably seen, and the audience will have seen as well, countries like South Africa being a real big leader from a perspective of global outsourcing, and then Egypt up in the north of Africa. But you've also got in sub-Saharan Africa, so for instance, Rwanda, where I am now, a real growing ability to deliver these services. They reckon there's about 790,000 people who are suitable for a GBS workforce across Africa. So you've got significant scale, you've got a group of people looking for opportunities, and that's supported by a really solid tertiary education system. So lots of graduates, ICT graduates particularly. I reckon there's about 2.1 million across the countries that are providing GBS services, with countries like Nigeria creating 600,000 graduates a year. So our Tek Experts operation in Nigeria has a great pool of skill to be able to draw from. Rwanda about 40,000, which for a country of 14 million people roughly, significant percentage of people go through to tertiary education. And we have 4 of the top STEM universities in Rwanda as well, creating that talent for us. And then key to that as well is the investment that supports that. So it's seen as a priority sector for many governments across Africa. It creates real economic change for individuals and for obviously for government from the point of view of getting more people into a working population. We have special economic zones. We have people like the World Economic Forum and the UN supporting how we make these changes, and incentive programs that make sure that Africa and the countries within Africa, if they want to adopt more and more of an ITO or GBS outsourcing strategy, can do that, and they can do it very, very successfully.
So it sounds like there's a great pool of talent here and lots of opportunity to tap into this talent to support the growth of organizations. Amazing, Gary. Thank you. You've worked in Africa for over 17 years. What are some of the key developments that you've experienced in enabling the strength of the IT outsourcing industry?
Well, I know it's hard to believe looking at me that I've been working for 17 years, but yeah, that is true. I turned up in South Africa in 2005. I worked for a UK mobile company, and we were setting up an offshore operation. And when I arrived, one of the things that was said to me is South Africa specifically has a first world infrastructure. It just doesn't have enough of it. Now, what we've seen over the years is that's changed significantly. We've got 37 of the 38 coastal countries in Africa now have access to one subsea cable of one description or another. So there's real strong connectivity globally. Google are about to land another cable now, I think they have in Western Africa. So there's more and more connectivity infrastructure into Africa, and that spreads into the interior. So lots of companies creating fiber connectivity across the interior of the country as well. So Rwanda connected by well over 7,000 kilometers of fiber cable, so real strong connectivity. We've also seen things change from a governance perspective. So data protection legislation over the time that we've all been working over this period has become a real big important topic. GDPR legislation in Europe and how that works and how that influences the ability to offshore and outsource and how we handle customers' data, really, really important. About a third of African countries now have some kind of GDPR mirroring data legislation. Rwanda's is going into law now. So we're just progressing into a structure that has all the governance that supports GDPR. And I know from a Nigerian perspective, it's either GDPR or POPI. So that ability to evidence that data is safe, that it's monitored, ministries of ICT and particular data protection officers are there. So there's governance in place to do that. Rwanda as well, interestingly, has just set up the first Fourth Industrial Revolution Center. So in partnership with the World Economic Forum, there's going to be 17 of these 4IR centers across the world, and Rwanda is the first one in Africa. It looks to bring together the data legislation, the Internet of Things, and AI, and make sure that you're continually testing it, learning and driving it. So it really, really makes a change to the way we can successfully utilize technology, digital technology, and how people interact with that as well. So big developments. And I think one of the biggest is the impact you can see that this makes. And it used to be around impact about cost and, oh, yes, it's cheaper. And those are the things you get. But what you actually see is that the performance we get out of the teams that we have running out of Africa is brilliant. Our Nigeria site is one of our biggest sites that we've got at around 1,600 people and performs in pretty much green across the majority of our lines of business for our clients. So it's really good. It's got the skills, we've got the opportunity, and we're seeing that in Rwanda as well. We went live September last year, and we're already green across our metrics, and we're sustaining that quicker than any other operation that we've done over the last 10 years of being in business. So it's a real environment that's developed and created an environment that allows you to perform really, really well for clients.
So what I've heard so far is that we have a great talent pool of passionate people who want to work. We have connectivity, we have amazing infrastructure, and then partnerships and collaboration with WEF, with the Fourth Industrial Revolution Center. So with all that said, what questions do you hear, Gary, when companies are considering Africa as the next location for their business support?
Yeah, we obviously, I talk to a lot of investors when they arrive in country. So we'll pitch up in Rwanda and want to understand what the landscape's like. And I think a lot of it comes from perception. A lot of it is historical. I know when I arrived in South Africa and I was talking to my boss before I went out to set up, and he had a picture on his desk, and it was a picture of Camps Bay. For those of you in the audience that don't know, Camps Bay is a bit like Honolulu. There's palm trees, there's sandy beaches, there's restaurants on the promenade. It's beautiful. And I went, is that where I'm going to set up? He went, no, you're going to Johannesburg. And of course, my mother was like, what do you mean you're going to Johannesburg? It's the most dangerous place in the world. But I lived there successfully and safely for many, many years and really, really enjoyed it. So I think a lot of what we see from Africa is that perception. It's built on history, understandably. Some of the history has been really unpleasant over many, many years. So it's built on history. It's built on concerns around safety, around concerns around stability. But I think what's happened over time is that that history, those perceptions have created an environment where people want to change. Rwanda is a great example. Same government, stable government, post-genocide for 28 years. It's one of the safest countries in the world to walk around day or night, which is a real change for me coming from South Africa, where that wasn't necessarily the case. Stable government, safe place to work, and connected. So you've got a real change, I guess, in what's perceived from outside of Africa to what it's like actually being there and having worked there for 17 years. I think some of the other questions when we get investors in are around how do we close skill gaps? So making sure that the skill that is actually needed is ready and in place for when you want to set up an operation or when you want to run it. We have lots of very clever people who've gone to universities and got the degrees and understand the ones and zeros, but how do you make sure that that skill is what you need to solve a customer's query, to resolve a case, to make sure that customer can go on and utilize the piece of equipment or the software or whatever it is we're trying to support? So it has to be, and I'll use James's words from one of the sessions we've had, it has to be really intentional. We intentionally develop skill. We develop skill at leadership level. We develop skill before people come with us. So we partner to be able to make sure that when people join us, they've already had a taste of what it's meant to be. So how it's going to work, being employed and fixing people's cases in different countries. I think as well, one of the things that COVID taught us was that we all work as remote teams. James is sat in one part of the world, I'm sat in another, and yet we're one team. And I think that remote team thing is really part of what Africa can provide. The connectivity is strong. So I'm talking to you out of Africa now, you'd have no idea. But the connectivity is also good from a travel perspective. So from Rwanda, I can fly into European hubs one flight, be it Amsterdam, be it Brussels. I can go the other way into the UAE, and we've got those connectivity. So we can connect personally. So if you want to come into country, see your teams, we can do that very easily. But it's also connected at an IT level, that we are just a remote team. We're an extension of wherever you are, whether you're down the road, in the next town, or in the next country. I think finally, the question I want to put out there is to everyone who's watching that what we need is demand. We need to bring demand into the country. And that piece is really, really key. Everyone else has got a great resignation. I've got a great application. I've got people who are ready to apply and willing and able to do a really great job.
And that's amazing, Gary. And I echo what you said. I had the privilege of spending some time in Rwanda at Tek Experts with yourself and your team. And what a passionate group of people, absolutely wanting to work hard, to apply their knowledge, and their thirst and hunger for more knowledge as well. So you mentioned closing that gap there, the skills gap. They're up for it. They want to learn. They want to then apply their learning. And also 100%. A very safe location. I felt incredibly safe when I was walking around the streets at night and day. And I loved my time there. So I definitely think it is an amazing location. So you mentioned some partnerships. And we mentioned the Fourth Industrial Revolution hubs with the government. Who are some of the organizations that we as Tek Experts is partnering with? Because, no one company can do this alone. If we're talking about delivering exceptional skills and technical support and closing skills gaps, there must be an ecosystem of partners that we work with. Talk to us about some of those, Gary.
Yeah, 100%. And there's an African proverb that says it takes a village to raise a child, and that's really, really relevant here. We partner for success across a range of people. So we utilize governments, and we work with governments closely, with NGOs, and the aim is to look for solutions. We'll also benefit from the fact that we have a sister company called Elevate, and Elevate focuses on digital skilling. And that's digital skilling right the way through from operating systems, entry level, creating that ability to handle a case, right the way through to dynamics, cybersecurity, and even leadership. So how do you lead in a digital world and a digital environment? Linked to that is WISE. WISE are in the Interact Zone as well. And WISE is all about career journeys. How do I track where I'm sat here now and I'm an engineer, but actually what I want to be is I want to be a subject matter expert. I want to be a team leader. What are the little chunks of learning and development that has to happen for me to be ready and to get that role when that role becomes available? So we very much utilize and partner with the companies that are part of the YNV Group. We also have Everty, and Everty provides the buildings and the infrastructure that you'll see when you visit one of our sites. And they're world-class, wherever they are. The buildings are stunning, whether people are working full-time on site or whether they're hybrid. Finally, I guess the key partnership is with our clients. Our performance is what really sells. Our performance and our people is what allows people to understand what this partnership means. And we see that in both the Rwanda and the Nigeria location really, really strongly.
Amazing. Gary, final question for you in our final 2 minutes together. Bringing it all together, my friend. Why Africa? and why Tek Experts in Africa?
Okay, there it is. For me, having experienced it for 17 years, the key is the talent. The key is the people, exactly what you said. Keen, passionate, willing, desire to learn, desire to work. That's what makes the difference. We've got the infrastructure, we've got the connectivity, you can see that. We've got clean power, we've got everything you need to develop a center, and we've got the investment to back that up. Key to it all is the impact it has to the people who work with us and the people that deliver service to your clients. So for me, I'd love to meet you guys here at the TSAI conference. I'd love to talk to more about Africa and the support options and the benefits. So come find us in the Interact Zone, and hopefully I'll see you around in the conference.
Gary, thank you so much for joining me today. And as Gary said, Wise and Tek Experts are going to be in the Interact Zone. Both Gary and I are going to be there. Come see us. Let's have a great conversation about Africa. But if you want to know more right now, we have a fabulous new ebook that's available for download. You can scan the QR code on your screen, or you can visit the Tek Experts website and go to our Insights page. I'm James Bedford. I've been speaking with Gary Bennett today. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you at TSIA.
Thank you all.